Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Streamed live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the President and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, President and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. What's going on, man?
Hey, it's a beautiful day again. We're going through some turbulence.
Yes, we
right?
are.
But we have to keep the wings balanced as best as possible. Keep the wings balanced. So it's a great morning to have this conversation. Welcome, community.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you and invite you all, if you're joining via Facebook, remember to hit that bell to remind you when we have a show, and to subscribe. We need your subscriptions every week, every month, every year to Diversity Conversations.
And call somebody up. Tell them, hey, you don't want to miss this show. Diversity Conversations is a place where you can come to have authentic, honest conversations. And Tommy, with all of the world, man, trying to cut out, cancel, make it illegal to do DEI, Tommy Lewis and Eric Ellis are still here as a place for you to be able to come to not allow yourself to live in fear, but to live in freedom.
I'll double down on that, Eric. Here in Diversity Conversations, it is not illegal to be different.
Right.
It is not illegal to be included. It is not illegal for you to have some equity or equality. Again, this is a safe space for you to speak your truth. Join us using your microphone or your video, but we have conversations not only about one thing, but everything that impacts human beings. So if you are human, join us.
Right.
Have a conversation.
And I'll tell you that Tommy Lewis and I are grateful to Almighty God that He saw this time that we would live in, and He prepared us for this moment, that we are not living in this moment in fear. We're not living in this moment in hatred. I don't hate anybody. I don't even feel like I have to spend a lot of energy dogging out the president, the Republican Party, or anything else. We love everybody, but we are here because we are free. And we are grateful for the moments that we're living in. And our job is to be almost like a Harriet Tubman for you, trying to guide you to freedom in your mind, your body, and your heart. Because there are a lot of people that right now are living in an extraordinary amount of fear. And Tommy Lewis and Eric Ellis and in Diversity Conversations have some solutions for you today.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So if you're looking for solutions, we have some, and we know that you do as well. So that's what conversation does, Eric. It allows people to hear other people's thoughts, maybe share their own thoughts and what works or what doesn't work. But ultimately, we want to get to customizing solutions. In other words, there may be an idea, an answer that may work for another person at another time and doesn't work for us at that time. And so if we can say, okay, that's an idea that's before its time.
Right.
Let me try that, right? This conversation has been before its time.
Absolutely.
We did not know 7 years ago.
Right.
When we were just having conversations on the radio.
Right.
That was again, free flowing. It was fun. It was engaging. We had guests from all industries and backgrounds, to even thinking that a diversity conversation would be challenged the way it is.
Right. And so I received some things this week. A lot of people are sending things to Tommy and I, and I received something from Dr. Karen Townsend. And she wanted to just help people to understand what is happening right now and the strategy behind it. And so I'm going to read a couple things here. We do know that our president signed over 200 executive orders. And media theorists predicted that when humans face information overload, they become passive and disengaged. The rapid fire executive orders create a cognitive bottleneck, making it nearly impossible for citizens and media to thoroughly analyze any single policy. Tommy, what are your thoughts about that?
From an emotional intelligence perspective, Eric, there is a true emotion called blah or numbness. Is when your mind, your body, and your energy is absolutely numb. It's immobilizing. It's sterile. It is really a place of extreme uncertainty. And the overwhelmingness that you're talking about in this with the 200 plus 250 executive orders, the chaos that's created out of this, people are not only seeing, hearing, maybe even articulating and working through some things, but they're feeling it. They're feeling the chaos. They're feeling the pressure of what might come.
Right.
That anxiety.
Right.
We need to be careful of ourself, not just our mental health, that's important,
right,
but our physical health. It will start to take a toll. And that's why I take from this chaos becomes the crisis that pushes through radical changes while people are too disoriented. We are confused.
Right, right. And so Tommy and I are going to give you a couple of answers. We got some solutions that we're going to provide for you. The first one is hide yourself under the covering of Almighty God.
Yes, Eric.
And I'm saying to you that we as people don't have all the answers. We cannot fully protect ourselves. But what Tommy and I believe is that there is a power greater than the one that we have. And that's the power of a relationship with God. In our religious vernacular, it's through his son, Jesus Christ, and believing in him. But I would say to you, find yourself becoming more connected to your faith, because that is what can guide you. Because what happened for me, if you'd have taken me back to Donald Trump's first term, there's probably more fear, more anger, more bitterness. And God has allowed all of that to dissipate. I want you to hear me, community. I have no hate at all for the president. I'm praying for him. I love the president in the ways that God has called me to love people. There are times that I feel sorry for him because I think there's a heavy dose of insecurity there. And he's being counseled by many of the wrong people. Tommy and I would love to be consultants to President Trump. Right now, what he needs is a DEI consultant.
Yeah.
Or what'd you say it was, Tommy?
It's what I forget what I said.
IED.
Oh, yeah. It's the
illegal.
Well, it's the I forget what I said.
Right, ID something. It's EID, ending illegal discrimination. Right. EID. That's what we are. EID consultants, President.
That's what you need. Because
that's his executive order was ending illegal discrimination. Yeah. So since he wants to do away with DEI, we're going to be in EID. Yeah. And because what he needs is some counsel around how to do some things that our country needs and yet not run over the people of our nation. The second thing they said is that agenda setting theory. And thank you, Dr. Townsend, for passing this on. I think it came from Emily Pearl, where some of this came from, to help us to understand the theory behind what we're experiencing. Because if we can understand the strategy, we can understand that we can put together counter strategies in order to move forward. So agenda setting theory explains the strategy. When multiple major policies compete for attention simultaneously, it fragments public discourse. Traditional media can't keep up with the pace, leading to superficial coverage. The result, weakened democratic oversight and reduced public engagement.
Eric, sorry that my mind drifted a little bit.
That's all right.
You really triggered a thought with 250 executive orders within the first few days of the new administration. I would imagine that those executive orders had to be created. The language had to be put together prior to that first day.
Project 2025.
Okay. All right. We're on the same page here. And so there was, I sensed that there was an intentional effort to flood the American people, businesses, organizations, agencies, schools of knowledge, be it higher education or secondary education, the flood with change.
Right.
There's going to be a ripple effect from this change.
Yep. No doubt.
Some of the ripple effect is in short term. We can see increases of certain numbers and certain things.
Right.
But then there's the long-term residual change that we may not be able to readjust for decades down the road.
Right.
I am with an agenda setting theory. What triggered that thought was what we're experiencing right now in our companies, in our communities, in our own lives. There was an intentional agenda to make this happen.
Right. Exactly.
It was.
To disarm you.
Yeah.
To take away your ability to defend yourself so I can come in and pillage everything that you have. But I got some news for you. I want you to see this. Tommy, remember the movie The Matrix?
Yep.
So Tommy and I have a special set of skills. We go this way, and then this, and then this is us. Right. You can't get us.
Right.
You gotta get your matrix on.
Yes, sir.
You cannot be out here stuck like a deer in a headlamp. Talking about they're getting us.
Get your matrix on. Right? And just see the shots.
Right.
Fly by you.
Right.
That is excellent.
And with God on your side,
say it,
and connecting with each other, you're being called upon to do something that we've not done in years. Yep. Our personal lives have become so busy that we don't have as much time. We have it.
Yep.
We don't make enough time for community and relationships. The good news about all of this, I'll tell you, there's a silver lining in everything, is that many of us may have been up under the misnomer that we were not in the same boat as everybody else. Well, right now, you're starting to see that many folks who thought they weren't in the boat or in the pot on the oven are in that pot of boiling water.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that when you see so many of you tied together, you begin to recognize that whatever you're doing, you'll have to stop some of that in order to make time for progress. Now, one of the areas that, Tommy, I hadn't thought about a lot in my own life is illegal immigration, undocumented people living in the country. We hear it. Right. It's the background music. I'm going to recommend to you all, I don't know if it's on Netflix, there's this wonderful series called Mo. And it's a Palestinian who is in this country, undocumented. And it's just showing you his life and what he goes through and all of that. His girlfriend, and it humanizes them in a way. He's the funniest guy in the world. I think Dave Chappelle discovered him. And he helps to build more empathy to people who are trying to make it in this country. And so when I look at, so I've been tuned out around the undocumented people that are in this country. I believe that we have to have a nation of laws. No problem with that. I also believe that there are complexities that have now led to our Congress, neither Democrats nor Republicans, having an interest in solving that problem. But Tommy, what went out to me in my heart is this notion of people that have been here for 20 years, working hard. All of a sudden, many of them are being hunted and they're living in fear. Tommy's business is working with this directly. There are school districts that are calling upon him because of some of the things that ICE is doing. I want to say this, and then I'm going to jump right in, Tommy.
Yep.
Do not hear Tommy Lewis and Eric Ellis as saying that we should not have laws.
Right.
We understand that actions, behaviors have consequences. But what we're saying is that we cannot lose our values as a nation. We have to be able to put the whole puzzle together, right, Tommy?
Yep.
And realize that how are you going to demonize people when you have no interest in solving the issue? Because it serves Democrats and Republicans to keep fighting over this issue. Businesses in this country, citizens in this country are taking advantage of the lower wages of the undocumented immigrants that are coming to our country and doing the jobs that we don't want to do. So this thing is complex, but I'm going to say to you that the feeling inside of me, our values should say that none of us should live comfortably seeing people living in fear who are just trying to get a better life, a safer life for themselves.
Eric, we have to increase our empathy, sympathy, and understanding of our fellow human beings.
Right.
With that being said, I would like to extend on behalf of Eric and I and Diversity Conversations our most sincere prayers to the families of loved ones that have been lost from the tragic event of aircraft and helicopter colliding in midair. I and Eric would like to share with everyone that it was not diversity that caused the crash. Let's not be bamboozled and run amok. It was not the word diversity that created the crash. It was not the hiring of women and or minorities
or disabled.
We want to be crystal clear that these are in your face, blatant attempts to lie, cheat, deceive, and kill.
Right.
For those who know the word, you've heard this before. We know what it is.
Right.
We know what it is. So I want to say, and I'm not talking about the other person. I've never met him, would never meet him. I'm talking about the families whose lives have been changed because their son, daughter, uncle, aunt, husband, wife, co-worker, friend, and neighbor is no longer with us.
Right.
I take planes every week, every other week.
That's right.
I'm going to be on 3 planes in the next week and a half. I'm going to Virginia to work with a client that works with our developmental disabilities and immigration and refugee services communities. I'm going out to Colorado, as Eric mentioned, to work with ICE and their attempts to just really uproot the trust and safety of all in their attempts to identify and quote unquote capture few. And so there's some residual there. I'm also going to Florida. In Florida there, it's warm now and it's getting hot. And they have been on this here's where DEI will die campaign for years.
Right.
I still think there are people in Florida, Eric. I still think that there are companies that are operating business in Florida.
Right.
And I still think that Florida is a place that people want to go and visit, maybe even live. And so if you don't agree with being human, if you don't agree with people, if you don't agree with building economies for all, then let it die. Again, if you don't believe in people, if you don't believe in building economies, people working, having a lifestyle and a way of living, educating people, if that's what you do not believe in, then you are right in line, lock and step with allowing DEI to die.
Right. It's almost like a diabolical strategy.
Yeah.
During the moment of the greatest pain in the nation, we're literally all of us sitting by our television sets, our radios, online.
Yeah.
We're listening for 67 passengers, hoping that somebody survived.
Hoping.
And right in the midst of that, on chilly nights, the Potomac is almost frozen over. The first responders are going in with thermal suits, trying to get in that water at risk to their own lives. And what we should be dealing with as a nation is praying for these families, for the pilots of the plane and the Black Hawk helicopter. Who would ever suggest that in the middle of that you begin to blame, see that as an opportunity to blame a group of people in an imaginary way in order to imprint on people's hurt and pain a deeper despise for something that you don't like politically, the harm that's done. So I started looking at the FAA and what have been some of their diversity strategies, and I saw that they had a big push for differently abled and people with mental challenges and people that are neurodiverse. That's one of their big things. But when you say DEI, the first thing you do is you brand it as almost brown people.
Right.
Black and brown people. So people's imagination goes, oh my goodness,
right.
They put unqualified people in those jobs. And by his own words, he said, I don't have any information, but you're going to sort of supposition, you're going to put something in there, stereotype a group of people in the midst of this pain. That's almost diabolical. In many ways, those things, they can work. I don't know, but there was another plane crash that happened 2 days later. I'm sad about that as well. But now you've got to look at both of these, and you're going to have to look at the fact that human beings make mistakes.
Indeed.
That lead to death. And so now that you had this one that you might have tried to handle and control all the narrative about it and landed into DEI, now you got another one at the same time.
Yep. We always talk often, and you all know us, community. We want to invite you to join the show. You can join us by simply checking the chat room, plugging in. Our producer will tee you up to join the show. We'll invite you to share a minute or two of your thoughts, insights, questions. We want this diversity of thought, diversity of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Eric and I know that and faithfully believe that we cannot ever get on and stay on the path to hate.
Right.
We can't do that.
Don't do it. Don't
we
do it. Don't
are
do it.
seeing hate incarnate.
Right.
You all have got to see that's hate.
Right.
And not try
don't
to
buy it.
Don't buy it. Don't try to rationalize.
And don't even throw hate back at it.
No,
don't do that. Don't do that.
So we have to know when we see hate in its purest sense.
Yep. Recognize it.
When we experience it, right? And throw up unapologetically the flag of love.
That's right.
In his name, right? Those who believe.
Right.
Right? You can be Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Christian, all of the faith-based people in this world, as well as those who may not believe in the faith, but they believe in human and mankind.
Right.
And they don't want to see the demise of men, because we know that hate is not the way.
Hate is not the way. Hate is not the way. Love is absolutely the way. And what it does is it empties out all the pressure and stress and anxiety that wants to reside within my body. Tommy, today, you can literally feel stress taking over your body. I want to finish up this information that Dr. Karen sent to us, because what now? Here's some strategies for dealing with the 250 executive orders flooding the zone. Set boundaries. Pick 2 or 3 key issues you deeply care about and focus your attention there. You can't track everything. That's by design. Impact comes from sustained focus, not scattered awareness. Number two, use aggregators and experts. Find trusted analysts who do the heavy lifting of synthesizing. Look at those explaining patterns, not just events. So you want to make sure you're looking at patterns that are happening, not just focusing on every little event that happens.
Yeah.
Let me remember, feeling overwhelmed is the point. When you recognize this, you regain your power. Did you hear that? Being overwhelmed is the point. So when you recognize that, then you regain your power. Take breaks, process. This is a marathon.
Yeah, I love that. Remember, feeling overwhelmed is the point.
Right.
Eric, this is what I try to do. As I talked to you before the show, I don't allow our president, administration, or anything like that to live rent-free in my head.
I love that, Tommy. Explain that to people, Tommy. I like that.
Yeah,
when Tommy said it yesterday, I hit the ceiling.
It's when you are thinking about someone or something, right? And you're not thinking about it just for a moment,
right?
You think about it, and you may even be driven to do more research, on that person or that event or that situation, and you may or may not have any control over them.
Ooh.
So you're thinking about someone that you cannot control, therefore they're living rent-free in your head.
Oh, let me jump in on this.
Yep.
This is powerful because you just said something there. I told you we got to slow the picture frame down sometimes. Tommy said, you cannot live rent-free in my brain. And then he said, sometimes our response is to do research. So here's what happens. You're trying to occupy space in my mind rent-free. Yep. I start charging you when I do research to find out how to deal with you, how to unravel you, how to make sure that you don't harm me. Then you start paying. You can't stay in my mind to just be in there lingering around, stressing me out, making my day worse. You don't get to do that. That's called rent-free.
Rent-free.
But when I start protecting myself, when I start calling up my friends, when we start organizing, when we start coming together as a community across differences, now you paying for the space you occupy.
Come on, you're not going to live rent-free, rearranging furniture, putting up drapes.
Try to kill me.
Yeah, opening up my refrigerator, keeping it open like you live there, because the truth is you actually believe you do live in my head. There are people and systems that have been trained and studied how to get into our heads.
Right.
Sometimes they come through our heart. Sometimes they come through our lived experience. But ultimately, if you can, and these people who are manipulative, if they can get into our minds and control our minds, then they have what? Controlled our minds. I have decided that literally, good people, the times that Eric and I are talking politics on this show is the only time I talk about politics.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
Because other moments of my life, the political discussion are things that I cannot control.
Right.
So I do not think about it.
Right.
I have people in my life.
Right.
That may have caused some trial and tribulation.
Right.
I don't think about them. My beloved wife reminded me on yesterday morning, where the night before I had gone to an event. There were two people that I saw that had cheated me. One cheated my business and stole money, right? And the other one was a former contractor who we had signed a contract for them to do some work at my home, private home, and they never did the work. Right. So I paid them in advance, and basically the little $2,000 went out the window. So I saw both of them yesterday, and I was in the day before yesterday, and I was in an environment where I had to kind of take the high road because my brand, image, and reputation.
But the low road was in there.
If they would have said something, or I would have said something. So I shared the conversation with my wife about how I felt. Hear me,
Right.
not what I did,
Mm-hmm.
but how I felt. And she reminded me that I was emotionally hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I pushed back, Eric, quickly.
Mm.
And she said, you're hijacked right now because they're in your head. No,
Mm.
I'm not hijacked. They're not in my head. She said, wait a minute, Tommy. When did the event happen? When did you see him? I saw him yesterday. And you're talking about it now?
Still there?
They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're eating your food.
They're in the refrigerator.
They got popcorn.
Kick it back. Don't need to beat up on the furniture.
They telling me what you need to do, Tommy, is you need to get home and talk to your wife about me. Yeah, because you thinking about me, right? And I ain't thinking about you. And then, but my wife, as it says, right? Find trusted analysts, maybe even partners,
right,
to help you do the heavy lifting.
Mm.
Right?
That's right.
My wife, in this instance, reminded me that I do not have to be the person to open my mind for these people to live rent free.
Mm-hmm.
She did the heavy lifting by saying, why are you even talking about it? I want to thank my wife because I pushed back because I wasn't clear on the understanding, but I know for a fact that what you were telling me was in love, not in criticism.
Nope.
So I'll allow folks like Eric, my wife, friends, and our community to help us in these conversations.
That's powerful, Tommy. Tommy, this thing, man, don't allow other people to live in your head rent free. I mean, you gotta tagline that, copyright that. That's one of the most powerful things that I've heard. And too often, Tommy, we're all doing that.
There we are.
Allowing issues, allowing people to live in our minds rent free, which means that I'm helpless.
Yep.
They're tied down to a bed and they're sort of just drip, drip, drip on my forehead, torturing me
to the cracks.
And so there's two other last strategies that we're going to give you to deal with this. One is to practice going slow. Wait 48 hours before reacting to new policies. The urgent clouds the important. Initial reporting often misses context. And I'm going to give you the last one here because I think this one's powerful. Build community. That's Tommy and I's theme. Share the cognitive load. Different people track different issues. Now, this is where they ended. Network intelligence beats individual overload.
Ooh.
Network intelligence, the intelligence of our community, of our network, beats individual overload. So some of you have decided you think you're just going to sit it all out. But in your mind, you're quietly battling and oftentimes losing all by yourself because you're feeling overloaded. But there's network intelligence that will say, we were here before all this started, and we will be here after it's gone. And I cannot allow myself to be destroyed by negative speculation about an unchangeable impact from what is happening right now. To do that, you'd have to be one who doesn't have faith in God.
Yeah.
You have given over all your faith in God to a belief in man and man's power to do things perpetually that are outside of the will of God. I don't believe that.
Yeah, Eric, I would like to invite our community to again chime in, go to the chat, come on board, let us hear your voice, see your face. But I am curious, as Eric, you share some of these strategies. Community, what most concerns you right now?
Mm-hmm.
What most concerns you? So we're talking about, the pros and cons of sticking with diversity, equity, and inclusion, or pivoting, making the pivot.
Right.
So even if we stick with DEI or we pivot, we are still people living, working, playing in a world that's ever changing. We're still people. And so how do we become the best version of our peopleness. And I think that one of the best versions of our peopleness, Eric, is when we share our concerns, we will soon find out that our concern is the same as many other people.
That's exactly right.
We're not on an island with the problem or the concern.
Right.
So that means that if we're not on the island, we don't have to take the full burden and the weight of that concern.
Right.
That the alliances of our network says, hey, here's my pain point, here's my concern. And we hear someone else say, me too. Me too, right? I as well, right? Anyone else? And now we have a chorus of folks raising their hands. We all are feeling it. Then what is our collective answer, right? Not a solo answer, not an answer for me and me only, but what is our collective answer? That is what a community does. That's what a community does. That's what a neighbor does. And so if we're pivoting, in some cases, it's the same concept of people and processes, culture, right? But we're just doing it differently. We are being people differently today as we were being people 100 years ago. People are connecting in relationships different today than they were 100 years ago.
That's right.
Easily. That there are folks that we know by way of friends, Eric, that we've never met. The technology has done that.
Right.
So let's leverage technology to uplift the community,
right?
To uplift the workforce, to even give support to positively change the administration that's run amok and may simply have forever been lost.
Right.
A fool at 40 is a fool forever. And if you're 78, 82, 90, you too can still be a fool. Let's call out the fools, right? Not as a demeaning or deprivating type of piece, but a fool is someone that is simply ignorant.
Right.
We are people, we are alive, and we do deserve human and civil rights.
Standing ovation. Now, let me share with you that Tom and I were talking yesterday, and we were realizing, hey, Eric, hey, Tommy, there ain't that many people that feel free to talk.
No, sir.
DEI got slammed, and now all the corporate people, they can't really say a whole lot on social media, and everybody has been pushed to silence. And so we realized, hey, man, we out here. We can say stuff. And so what we saw was this cloud of fear that was out there, and now it's moving closer to over our heads. And so we're going to share some strategies about how to deal with fear. But I'm going to start here. Just because someone's trying to scare you doesn't mean that you have to be afraid. Just because somebody's trying to scare you doesn't mean you have to be afraid. And I'm grateful because I know that Almighty God has helped me to see that. Hey, people trying to scare you. But remember who you standing with. I got this. I run the whole thing. Can't do nothing that I don't allow. And so we are here to share some practical tools with you of things that you can do to help you to not be afraid. Now, just in case anybody thinks that Tommy and I are just from a liberal bent and we're against the current, no. Right. We will say to you that without question, both parties are trying to do that. Right. They both lead with fear because you have to be less creative, because fear gets the attention of the media. So, hey, both parties are going to try to scare you to death. And so here are some strategies that can help you to avoid the feeling of being overwhelmed with fear. Stay informed, but limit overexposure. In other words, make sure that you are testing. We all got Apple stuff now, Apple phones, Apple watches. but you can do your own check and say, how am I feeling right now?
Yep.
Tom, as I'm riding down the road, I want to know what's going on with the passengers and the families that were killed. But then I have only a limit that I can take of that as well.
Absolutely.
And so then I turn back to jazz.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I go, here's what I do.
Yep.
I'll do a little MSDC, whatever it is, MSDC, whatever the thing is. CNN, Fox. I'll turn to jazz music, and then I'll turn to sports to see what's happening for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then I turn to a little bit of CNN. Then I turn to jazz, sports, jazz, sports, jazz, sports, CNN.
Yeah.
And so I am managing my own internal feelings that I'm never being overwhelmed by what's happening on Fox News or anything else. I'm measuring my own temperature.
Yep.
And when I see that thing rising in ways that are now no longer informative and instructive, but they're harmful, then I move.
Yeah, all of us human beings, Eric, and that's a good point. We all have some vibrations in our energy, our chakras, if you will. And so those energies really drive certain attentions, et cetera. It can be from that cortex, from our head, if you will, from our abdomen, our body, from our loins, if you will, from our lower extremities. And these energies they resonate like a tuning fork to other energies that come in.
Come on now.
And so what happens is when you're tapping into the jazz, right, it's hitting a certain chakra that's balancing.
Right.
And then you tune in, if you will, you tune in to another frequency, and you can only take that frequency so far before it becomes piercing, Eric. And it's piercing, and then you want to level set to get back in tune, or in alignment, atonement, So now, okay, that's for Eric Ellis, that's your sound.
That's right.
That's your
Come
sound.
on now.
Right?
Yes,
boom,
sir.
boom, boom.
Yes,
you
sir.
know when it's not your sound, it's the fingernails on the chalkboard.
Right.
That is not it.
No, that's not it. Turn.
Right. And then you get to something that's a little low, and you have to, I can barely hear it. Hold on. Okay. Oh, they ain't saying nothing.
Right.
It's low and nothing. I'm struggling to stay with that. Let me get back into my own tune. Right. My tune. And that's what we have to do, Eric, to reduce, if not eliminate, that scaredness or fear. We have to get back into tune.
Right. And I'll tell you that even the sports, I have to turn away from that.
Yeah, indeed.
Because everybody's strategy is conflict and sensationalism.
Come on.
And now when you're dogging out another guy because you need the listeners to be listening, that's hurting my character. And so I said, I haven't even consciously recognized it, but in my subconscious, I'm feeling it. And it says that message does not align with our value system.
Right.
So then I got to turn away from that to something that's more encouraging. Focus on what you can control. I would say that don't spend a lot of energy talking about the things that you can't control. I think I shared this before. I will share it again. I was driving down the highway one night. A good friend of mine called me up and he said, Eric, we're in trouble. There's no way we can survive. We can make it, man. All of these changes and executive orders and everything. I said, whoa. I'm driving and I did a timeout. I can't do that because everything in my mind and body was, we're being overwhelmed. The sky is falling. I said, I don't do sky is falling. I said, let me tell you something. Nobody has the right to take away my ability to hope and believe that my talent, skill, and ability, in other words, who God created me to be, along with my God and our community, you can't tell me that I can't accomplish the purpose and the vision that God placed in me on what I'm supposed to do here on earth. Right. So community, we're saying this right now to your face. Remember who you are and recognize that you, your talent, skill, ability, potential, your God and your community is enough to become and to achieve anything that God created you to do.
Come on. Come on.
So make sure that you are focusing on things you can control. And Tommy, there's something in me that rejects hopelessness.
Okay.
There's something in me, Tommy, that rejects this notion that a pity party and the future is bleak and we can't get up and make it. Yeah. Come on now, you're a ball player, right?
Right.
You didn't never see nobody you didn't think you could whoop.
Oh, no, sir.
We showing up. I'm going to fight. If you are whooping me, I'm still going to be fighting from the bottom.
Yeah. I'm here all day. All day. Right?
That's what we do.
Even when we lose, I'll be back.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to see me tomorrow.
You're going to see me. Come on now.
And so what we want you to recognize is that what you have is enough. You've got to activate yourself to become a part of the community. You have to allow love. I know there are people that are angry with me because I'm not mad enough. Eric, why ain't you angrier? Don't say you love that guy. Don't say you love those people. Did you hear what they said?
Yeah.
Well, that's not my commandment.
Right.
That's the commandment that God, Almighty God, has given me. Yeah. And what I've seen, Tommy, is that when God begins to overwhelm my countenance with his spirit and with his love, I feel like I've risen above the temporary.
Yeah.
And I've tapped into the eternal.
This is excellent word, Eric. Excellent conversation. Again, when we're experiencing fear, and in this case, we're looking at, different political parties infusing fear into our community, into our livelihoods and lifestyles, and into our head. It's easier for them, maybe for some of us. Mm-hmm. It's easier to attack than to inspire. We're going to always, as you're mentioning, take the high road to inspire, to be optimistic, to be hopeful,
right?
Meaning full of hope.
Okay.
And not to attack.
Right.
See, sometimes those who attack others are experiencing some deficits, deficits of needs unmet, deficits in love, Eric. Sometimes folks attack others because they're not getting the love or haven't received the love that they wanted in the past. And they're running through their own schema narratives of their hurt, and they're, again, projecting that hurt that they have of themselves on others. We call it self-hate, degradation. And so what we want to do is, when we see or experience the attack, which is real, I'm not minimizing that.
Right.
What do you do? What's the actionable next step to overcome attacks?
Right.
It can be physical attacks.
Right.
Sometimes we fight, flee, or freeze. Sometimes there are psychological and character attacks.
That's right.
Do you stand on your truth, or do you acquiesce to the attacker to have their way? We're saying that we need to stand on our truth. And oftentimes that truth, Eric, is God, you know the answer, right? You know the plan. There's things I don't know, and I have my own free will that you gave me, and I want to push back on them as they are pushing on me.
Right.
Help me now and guide me to the next step, the future. In the name of love. So that's why, Eric, we can say we love them because we know God.
Right.
Really. And so let me pause here just for a second, Eric.
I like it. Yes, sir.
I want our community to also understand that when we're speaking of God, we're speaking of a higher being or entity. It can be named different things in different languages, different faiths, right? That there are certain unexplainable phenomenons that's happened to all of us, that it can only happen because of something else.
Right.
again, not to get too deep in it.
No, I'm good.
But let's take the air that all of us breathe.
Right.
I want to ask the community, which one of you created the air that we breathe? Which one of you? I want to thank you. Right? Because I was just born into this world
make sure it's clean.
had this air, right? And the uncleanliness is human beings, us. The air that we were blessed with was perfect air.
Pure.
It's air that folks or that our other species that do not breathe air cannot survive in the air that we have, be it clean or dirty. That is a miracle, just like birth.
Right.
So I wanted to go down that path real quick, Eric, because that's where our faith lies. Our faith lies in there are things bigger than us, and why should we fear what God has gifted us with?
Right.
And sometimes the trial and tribulation is a gift for us to understand our true faith in him.
That's powerful, Tommy.
It's a test.
That's powerful. And so let me sort of simplify what Tommy and I are saying to you and practical strategies and tools that we are utilizing every day ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Tommy talked about a world where people are shooting at you. Shooting at you. If you're in a battle and they're shooting at you, the first thing you have to do is take inventory on whether I've been hit.
Yeah.
And so what we're saying is that if you are hit, whether it be by these political darts, or whether it be by workplace darts, or whether it be by bullets that are coming at you from your family and people that you love, first thing you have to do is take inventory on, have I been hit? And then what we're saying to you is that we have a different response for you, that we have tried and we have seen the healing power of a strategy that we're recommending now. That first thing I do is I don't absorb those attacks and then dwell on them in a negative way. In other words, I then compound the injury by allowing it to fester in me and multiply itself in the form of hate. If I reject that hate and I instead replace it with love, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to say that that's a weak response. But I can tell you, here's what I found. I didn't want to replace it with love because my mind too said it's weak.
Yeah.
But God said it's strong. And God said to me, Eric, that's not how we operate. I said, come on, God, you can't take that from me. My ability to hate back. If I hate back, I'm no different, no better than the world around me. I have to recognize that anybody outside of God is hurting and capable of anything.
Yeah.
Inside of God, I make mistakes all the time. So I'm grateful that as I take inventory on whether I've been hit and how I've been hit, that as I respond back to that with temperance and balance when I can, and then love and compassion and prayer is a huge response.
Absolutely, Eric. We want to speak to Dr. Gibbs. Thank you again for joining us and our other community members. Dr. Gibbs says this for those who are listening. You are both, speaking to me or Eric, both speaking to the sentiments of my heart. That's her heart because of her deep relationship with God. But there are so many Black women in particular who have quit watching all news since the election, and they are very upset. And she would like us to speak some words of encouragement to this. I will share very quickly that I understand.
Powerful.
This is my sentiment. Again, I don't allow people to live rent-free in my head. I don't watch the news or do research as much as I used to at all. That's for my own mental and spiritual well-being. And so the words of encouragement is, you'll be okay. You do not need to be informed of your pain every day. You don't need to be informed of your suffering every day. You don't need to be informed that the oppressor and manipulator is doing the work that they are, and you may feel or experience victimization. And if it's a television show or a radio station, you have the power and authority to change the channel.
Absolutely.
You can turn the TV off. You can look at your laptop and delete Alt, right? Control, delete, Alt, pow. Just turn it off. That's the power. That's the power. Again, just full circle, good people, be reminded that we, all of us that are in earshot and eyesight, we're here for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
All of us. If you live to be 100, that is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for a short period of time. And the older and more seasoned you get, you realize that time is the most valuable commodity. How do you spend your time?
Mm-hmm.
Do you spend it focusing on other people and things you can't control?
Right.
No.
Right.
In our conversations, we do have this, but there are more things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Family, friends, love, mortgages, building property, yeah. But if the black women who've quit watching, so be it. Watch a show, watch something else, do something else. That's fine.
Right.
To save yourself.
Right.
To save yourself.
Dr. Rhonda, I want to thank you for trusting Tommy and I enough to ask us to provide some words of encouragement to Black women. I'll start with a story. My wife and my daughter are the most important Black women in my entire world. I care deeply about them. When I sit with them, they have so much fun with each other, Tommy, that you can't even get in. I mean, my daughter and my wife were sitting there yesterday just talking to each other, and I said, I got something to say. I got something to say. Does anybody want to listen to me? And they literally were ignoring me. Like, you're not in the club. We get to talk to each other, and mom knows the right things to talk about. And you don't. So just sit over there and we'll let you in whenever we can. Really? That's how this works?
How this works.
So I sat there, finally I got in with my point. I said it, and it was like anticlimactic. And they went on right back to whatever they was talking about before I jumped in.
Thank you.
But I love them deeply. And my wife said something a couple months ago. She's working a job virtually in England. She's senior vice president of diversity, DEI, for a company in England. And she was so overwhelmed. She said, I'm losing so many battles that it's literally causing me to lose my faith in God. Why?
Right.
And so, Dr. Rhonda, I would say to you that I know that there are many Black women that may feel that way. Black women went to work to try to get Kamala Harris to become the first woman and woman of color president in this country's history. And in many ways, Black women feel completely let down and rejected because the character of Kamala Harris was so far away from the character of Donald Trump. It almost sent the message that would choose anybody not to choose you. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to you is that when my wife said that, my heart began to be overwhelmed and flooded with an emergency, all hands on deck message from heaven. And God said, pray. And I said to my wife, I said, Judy, I said, you can't give up. You are our biggest anchor in this family. You are the deepest prayer in this family. The reason for many of our own faith is anchored in our confidence in your brilliance. And a mind that would be as brilliant as yours has strong faith and dependence on God. And if that works for you, that works for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying to you, Rhonda, and I'm saying to all other sisters, and then I'm saying to just everybody in our community that's listening, that God is able. And I went to praying, Tommy, right away.
Yeah.
And here's what God did. That same day, he sent 3 random people to call her out of the blue. Said, Judy, I was just thinking about you. What do you need? I mean, hold up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Eric. Yes, sir.
I've watched Almighty God come to her rescue.
Yes, sir.
He sent her a great boss. He's got a new boss now that really encourages her. And he's told her things that she's never heard. He said, Judy, I've never met anybody that so many people love. That's because we went to God.
Yes.
And you never know the plan that God has for you. But I can tell you that it is of good things. That's what's in your future. My daughter's worked in 3 corporations. The first 2, she was there bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Come on.
Giving her best and believing that if I give my best and my customers celebrate that should be sufficient for me to be successful. But then she was a victim of illegal discrimination. And even though she was right, and even though she had her parents there to encourage her, her little kite started flying lower.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, she's gotten hired by Coca-Cola. And she's working in a great situation where they believe that she could be the president of the company someday. Here's what Tommy and I have to offer, is straight faith in God. And a recognition that just because people don't see you today, don't mean they'll never see you. And we're so grateful that God has given us the opportunity and the freedom and the platform to be able to speak truth to each other. You see, we're so busy in the world right now that we don't even know our neighbors.
Yes.
We don't have time for each other. But God has given us this opportunity to find community together, to say to one another that you will make it, that nobody can stand in the way of what God designed you and created you to do.
Yes.
And all you want to do is take the light that God has put inside of you and understand that love is stronger than hate. That light is stronger than darkness. And we're going to be all right. That's what I know. And that message I send first to Black women. Then I send that message everywhere. And I send it directly from heaven because it's not a message that I have naturally. My own natural flesh, my flesh wants to despise. My flesh wants to live in anger. My flesh wants retribution against those that harm me. My flesh wants to highlight every weakness and every flaw of the enemy. That's not what God does.
Come on, Eric.
God says we're bigger than that. We're better than that. We're stronger than that. You're stronger than that. You have light. Walk in my light.
Oh, my
God. Watch what it does.
Oh, my God.
Walk in my light and watch what it does. I know that nobody on this earth has the ability to stop what God has created us to do. And all I want to do is keep working on Eric. You see, when I first gave my life to God, I came into church looking around and pointing out all the hypocrites. Like, God, look at that and look at that. And God said, hold up. Did you not know that the church is a hospital and that you're in it? God said to me, the resolution on your site is awfully good for the flaws in others. I need you to bring down the resolution of how quickly and how easily you see the flaws of others. I need you to turn your eyesight back on yourself and see the flaws that exist in you and recognize that you exist because of my grace and my mercy and my forgiveness. Make sure that you're ready to provide that for others. And that's not just others that are easy to live with. That's others that are difficult to live with.
Yes.
And that's the strength that Tommy Lewis and I operate out of. A recognition that we're here on assignment. We both tried to quit the show.
We tried.
Tommy walked away and got threw him back. Right? What did you doing? He gave him a lecture and sent him back. And I was packing up, because when Tommy left, I was packing up my bag. Like, ooh, I'm so glad Tommy left. Let's go. And before I shut the last and turned out the light, Tommy peeked through the door like, hey, I'm back.
You still there?
What are you doing? I done packed up. God said, packed up. Last thing, because he knew this time would come.
Yeah.
He knew this day would be upon us.
Yeah.
And our job is to do our little part where we are. And we thank God for you. We thank God for that question.
That was the question to set us into the weekend and into next week. That is the question.
Yep.
So with that being said, Eric, it is our time. We would like to thank our community, always thanking our producer who's doing a wonderful job. She's always behind the scenes, making us look good and being patient with us. We love Lydia deeply and dearly. We do. And so again, we want to invite you all, if you want to join the show as a guest,
right?
Please
come on, y'all,
join us, right?
Right.
And as Erica said in the past, and we have to close out, that we are strengthening this show. We are on the cusp of moving into a new
location,
studio, right? We're on the cusp of
permanency.
bringing you on
taking
board.
Our flag and putting it down.
We are almost there to level up to make sure that we are the best for you, for the best for you. So with that being said, E, we would like to thank you all for joining us this week and invite you back for next week for another installment of
Diversity Conversations.
Take care now.
Take care now. Take care of each other.